A Vampire's Last Meal. Written and read by Mr. B. Gather around as I tell you a very spine-chilling story about a vampire that just couldn't help himself.
As I stood over the little teenage human, baring my sharp, bloody fangs at her, and my mouth stretched wide ready for a bite, the small teen girl trembled in terror, her fear fueling my excitement. Oh, just like many times before, with all my other victims, it made her smell so succulent and mouth-watering. This was the best moment of my life. But as I reached my long, sharp claws towards her fragile little neck, she shook and cried aloud, trying to break free from my vise-like grip, trying to reach for a shard of glass from a window her aunt shot me through with a shotgun while I was chasing her. Lucky bitch, none of the less. She tried to take a swipe at me but missed, and I grabbed her right arm and broke it. She screamed like a banshee. Ha ha ha. The sound of terror from humans was music to my ears. I loved it so. I then picked her up nice and slow. She tried to struggle again, but it was no use. She was so weak and tired, on the brink of death. Ha 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 ha. That's when they taste the best, you know, when they're hopeless and begging for their life. Oh, it was almost adorable. But now finally she was all mine. I took my time with my second meal of the night, my main course, ha 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 ha, slicing the little meat sack's wrist and arms to get a taste of what was soon to be in my stomach. I took a deep breath, her warm, bright blood, so red, so beautiful, it smelt so succulent, oh my. I couldn't wait to drink her blood and kill the little wretched human. I bit into her neck violently and fast. My thrill and bloodlust grew ever stronger, my eyes growing wide, from gray to blood red and filling with glee as I drank from her neck. The hunt was over. But something wasn't right. After a while, her blood started to taste stranger and stranger. A rancid, almost foul aftertaste started to flood my taste buds, and her blood was like spoiled milk, so bad compared to other humans all of a sudden. This was the first time I had ever felt disgusted by blood. My ever-hungering stomach rejecting the girl's horrid blood. Something had to have tainted this girl's blood. Was she sick, or was it just a different taste? Humans and their biology are so hard to understand. She did have a peculiar smell too, though, now that I took a better whiff of her scent. But it was like it changed all of a sudden. She had to have a sickness of some kind that affected her blood. And another weird thing, she was unusually very easy to catch, almost like she wanted me to get her. Strange. Either way, I didn't think much of it at the moment. I had lost my appetite anyway, my hunger gone. I spit out the blood. My moment of excitement and ecstasy had passed, and after all of the trouble and the near-death experience and hell her little auntie put me through too. But hell, at least she was yummy. I threw the small teen down softly on her bed. She made a small painful grunt as she landed. I went to crush her tiny skull, putting my massive black claws on both sides of her skull. I mean, if I heard right before I killed the ant, the little teenager was doomed to die any day now, so why not put her out of her misery as my act of kindness, my good deed for the day? He. As I picked her up and squeezed down, attempting to crush her skull, all of a sudden her look of fear was gone, and what replaced it was calmness and a tiny smirk. It was like she just thought of a funny joke in her head, laughing at me. What the hell was going on? This bothered the hell out to me. Where was the fear? Where was the terror? I wanted to see the little meat sack squirm and beg for her life. I asked her, with my patience wearing thin minute by minute and my rage growing even stronger. I shook her violently and said, "By God, you wretched little human, why are you smiling in a situation like this? You are all but dead at this point. I'm a vampire, a creature of the night, and you smile with my death grip tightening." As I waited for an answer, barely able to speak, she squeaks out, "Here is the thing, you big pale-ass hat. Have you wondered why this hunt of yours has been like so easy up until now, other than my auntie holding you back for a while and almost killing you? Haha." I don't know if it was an error on my part, but something did feel off about the whole situation. Genuinely, it was my easiest hunt up until this point in my centuries in this world, and like before, her blood was usual for a human. Did she rig a trap? I'm unsure, as I would have sensed something, and it was nowhere near morning, so I had time to spare. But frustrated and confused, I shouted, "I will end your little pointless existence for ruining my meal with your godforsaken putrid blood and that horrid attitude of yours. Just get to the point, you little bitch girl, so I can end you." She gasped and pretended to be offended, like she was making fun of me. Rude much, Mr. Big Vampire, the fucking little meat sack, just started giggling as she dangled helplessly from my grasp. My undead cold blood was boiling. getting hotter and hotter it felt like, and at this point it had gone on long enough I didn't care for an answer or a meal. I just wanted her dead. I reached with both claws towards her head and neck to rip her apart, limb from fucking limb. If anything, her death was going to satisfy me so. However, before I could do anything to her, I noticed her eyes turned similar to mine, gray and blank like when I'm not hungry. All of a sudden it started to make sense, the ease of the hunt, the ant being so hard to kill, her blood tasting horrid. She was a damn vampire just like me. But then I remembered the broken medical equipment slung everywhere, and spell books scattered around too, with one I noticed that said, "Humans' Vampiric Lifestyles." It seemed like they were attempting to reverse her curse or enhance her abilities. But I couldn't really tell. How couldn't I detect another one of my kind around? Was bewildering. My senses would never fail me. Unless. Before I could finish my thought, the little wretched one smirked at me and said pessimistically, "All the W, you finally putting it all together." She giggled so much it started to hurt my long ears. "Yeah, thanks to you, the only person who could help me is dead, and I guess you already figured out too that that woman was not even my real aunt. She was a little mind slave I captured some time ago, and somehow you struggled with that weakling." She giggled harder and harder, as finally she broke free with so much ease and started to levitate above me, finally showing her true strength for the first time, and compared to mine, she was leagues above me. I could feel her prowess and power radiating off of her. She was no normal vampire, and for what it's worth, I was actually feeling regret in my cold, cold heart. Why did she play possum for so long, letting me think I had the advantage when she could have stopped me and saved the woman she called her aunt? I was at a loss for words, but now it all makes sense of how I was outsmarted by that immortal wretched child. And even more embarrassingly, before I could retaliate or even blink, the next thing I knew, she had lunged at me, moving quicker than anything I had ever seen. Her speed not only matched my own but surpassed it, and any of the strongest vampires I had ever known. Quick as a fox, quicker than the speed of light. Oh, I had never been outgunned and humiliated like this before. It got even worse as she dived toward me. She had a murderous glee glowing in her blood-red eyes, and her giggle grew into a witch-like cackle, her small claws as sharp as tiny razors digging into my throat. My eyes widened as she stared into my fearful dead eyes right before she slammed me through the floor of the two-story house to the bottom floor. My undead body was barely able to handle her power, and with her tiny claws still in my throat, she began to rip and tear like a rabid monster. Is this how all my past victims felt, hopeless and filled with terror? Oh, how the tables turned. My mentor always told me that controlling your bloodlust was the #1 thing to keeping yourself safe while hunting as a vampire. I never did listen to him, considering as soon as I got strong enough I killed him. Karma really is a bitch. She kept ravaging my body till there was nothing left from the waist up but a bloody skeleton. I guess you could say I got what I deserved, but honestly I don't think I did. But I will say the girl made me pay for my greed. As the little wretched demon child was finally done ravaging the towering vampire's body, she stood over him, dripping in a crimson mask, the moonlight making the blood glisten so beautifully on her white skirt. She took a deep breath and licked the blood clean off of her hands, then looked around at her surroundings, almost proud of the carnage that had transpired. And then just started cackling again, non-stop, at the fact that she managed to outwit of the bloodthirstiest and strongest vampires alive so easily. It was child's play. She then went to grab her books that got scattered by the fight and found her little black all-star Converses and walked out of the house with a devilish smile on her face. She then lifted off and flew away, off into the dark night. The girl was worse than a vampire, and who's to say she really was one? She was a trickster after all. Regardless of her origin, her next destination or objective was a mystery. And when the village and police found the body of the towering vampire soon after she left, they were just scared and bewildered as he was before death. Just remember, never underestimate a foe or a prey, cause you will never know when they will make you pay and bite back with force and vicious intent.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed that crazy story and you are hungry for some more, make sure to like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.